Morning there, folks. So last night I was watching a fairly straightforward, nice looking video of a bolognese, and of about 100 comments, a majority of them were of a negative nature, most of them being of an unproductive or unhelpful tone. An example would be the usual, my ancestors are turning in their grave, or you can't call this such and such a dish because it doesn't contain such and such an ingredient. And it made me think about my experiences, my time as a novice cook. It made me wonder if I would have persevered in my culinary journey if all my feedback consisted solely of criticisms and disapproval. Now, for me, I've been working in a professional capacity in the food and hospitality industry for a long time. So I've developed a kind of a protective shell that allows me to cook with confidence and allows me to defend my work. However, this is not the case in other aspects of my life. I often work under the assumption that others have a greater knowledge in a given topic or a particular subject, and have frequently been deterred from learning a new skill or taking up a new hobby just out of fear of judgment. So I do wonder that if I was learning to cook in the modern environment, where the internet has allowed us to be left open to anonymous critique, would I have persevered? Now, I think bolognese is actually a really good example of the gatekeeping that can happen in the culinary industry, as it holds such a unique place in Italian cuisine. Recipes for the dish can vary significantly depending on the region, town, or even the family that's making it. For instance, in some areas of Italy, a ragu will be made with milk, whereas in other parts they don't use milk at all. Traditionally, spaghetti isn't the pasta of choice for a bolognese. Bearing in mind that a bolognese just means ragu with pasta. Traditionally, it would be a tagliatelle or a pappardelle, and in some cases they use things like penne or fusilli. What I'm meaning to say is that some individuals may feel entitled to pass judgment and criticize or disapprove of other people's work. It is important to remember that everybody has their own unique experiences and their own unique perspective. To go back to the bolognese example, in the north of Italy, they won't use tomatoes because they're not as readily available. Whereas in other parts of Italy, they will use tomatoes because tomatoes are readily available. Traditionally, minced meat is not what's used in a bolognese. It is actually usually bigger chunks of stewed meat. The reason I'm saying this is, given the experience and the knowledge that I would have of this, I am not going to dedicate my life to telling people that what they're doing and how they're doing it is wrong. I do believe that it is important to recognize the gatekeeping that has become more prevalent in the culinary industry, especially with things like TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, where people are free to share their recipes and their experiences. And they really shouldn't be berated for sharing their versions of recipes. Recipes are not a static entity. By their very nature, recipes are subject to change. And I believe that it's that adaptability that makes cooking such a beautiful pastime. It allows me to take recipes passed on from my mother, put my own individual spin on it, and pass that on to my children. But as the recipe evolves, the essence of it stays the same. Use this recipe to nourish our family. Now, of course, there are recipes that have undergone such a significant change from their source material that they cannot be considered authentic. However, I will still refrain from criticizing or belittling somebody for making that recipe. I would rather have a conversation with people about the origins and the reasons for recipes. I know I'm rambling on, but in short, what I'm trying to say is I think we just need to be a little bit nicer to ourselves. And it's so hard to say that that's becoming rarer and more difficult as time is going on. But it is so important to remember that belittling people and knocking people down does no good. It's not good for you, it's not good for that person. And if you're somebody that gets a thrill out of knocking people down, you're the person with the bigger issues. Anyway, I'm going to get back to my coffee. Food is to heal, not to hurt.